Jesse. Welcome to the Leverage Interactive Studios, as we now call it.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about AuctionWORKS before we kick off.
So we're a property auctioneering company. We were started before my time, 1997. I started with the company in 2009, I think. And since that time, I took over in 2018 from David Scholes. Our company do about 2,500 auctions a year, and we've got 9 auctioneers on board at the moment.
How did you get started, Jesse? How did you just plop into the position, or did you win a comp, or what happened?
No, pretty much. I finished university, or the last year of my university, and David, who's my mentor, is actually one of my father's best friends, invited me in to do an auction sort of trial with him.
Yeah.
I started working with him in my last year of uni, and then did an auction comp in 2010, the novice comp, and managed to win that. And then since then, just sort of made it my goal to buy the company. So I've stayed there ever since. So I'm like an old bit of furniture, really.
Now, just for those watching, you also have your own auction rooms, don't you, Jesse?
We do indeed. So our major centre is based at mezzanine level at 50 Margaret Street in the CBD. So we do a lot of the commercial auctions through that venue. So ranging from sort of probably about 60% of the commercial auctions come through our company, and a good majority of them go through that room. So that's what that room does. It also operates as our office, a bit of a training centre, and a few others do some auctions there as well.
We actually want to talk to you for 2 reasons. A is you're one of those people who pimp yourself out to as many any agents you can. So you're not connected, and you also do commercial auctions. But the big one is you're one of those blokes who've actually had to use all the platforms. So you tell us about that.
All the platforms that are out there at the moment in terms of online, on-site, in rooms, that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, we've had our business had a lot of success in rooms. Of course, auctioneering naturally leads you to on-site auctions. But to really build a big auction company, you do need to take an element of your auctions off site. And for our business, a percentage of that might even be 60% of our auctions are done in rooms. So
right.
For us, it's not only more efficient and more effective for the auctioneer. I think it's a lot more controlled for the agent, the in-room methodology. You don't compete with barking dogs and leaf blowers and all that sort of stuff, traffic. And I remember once I had a guy with a petrol go-kart thingy, and he didn't want the house to be sold. So at the back of the thing, he was just revving this thing the whole bloody time. So that was a bit interesting. But so little things like that, the elements of control and go back into the hands of the agent, and I think that's a good thing. So that works. On-site auctions, we do a lot of those, of course, as well. There's no better way, to be really honest, to grow your profile than a good quality on-site auction locally. They're incredibly good, and I think that they're always a good bit of fun and theatre and that sort of stuff as well. And then obviously in recent times, prior to COVID, to be fair, online auctions became a lot more prevalent. We've been doing live auctions for quite some time now. It's just a matter of integrating the bidding and that sort of stuff into the system. But yeah, no, it's been a very interesting process, the whole thing through, and they all work. That's the thing. They've just got their different elements of value to clients at different times.
Right. So the research you did, what are the platforms out there which agents can have a look at?
So the three major platforms I'd say that the agents are aware of now is Auctions Live, Auction Now, and Gavel. They're the three that I know of personally, and that I know that I've seen a couple of different websites spruiking a few other things as well. They're the ones that I think have been tried and tested the most, particularly with the major auctioneers and major auctioneering groups and companies across pretty much Australia. So I think they're the ones that are having success. Auction Now and Auction Live, I think, are certainly the top 2 of the pile, in my opinion anyway.
So you down in your rooms, you wander into the mezzanine level at number 50, which we've had on a number of occasions. You've got some rooms down there, and you've got a whole pile of breakout rooms where people can sign contracts. And obviously, you obviously at AuctionWORKS try to provide a holistic service of come in, we'll do the registration service for you, we'll conduct your auction, we will take you off into various little rooms and get you be allowed to sign contracts. How have you found that trying to provide that holistic service to your agents working now?
Yeah, a lot more difficult. And I think I think the truth is at the moment, and this is in my humble opinion, and not that my opinion is very humble, but I think that at the moment, anybody that tells you that this is just as easy and cruisy as it was, they're probably not quite telling you the exact truth. This is a lot more clunky. This is a lot more uncomfortable. This is taking a lot longer. But the most important thing is that our job is to continue to do business, and this process still works. It's harder, and we're having to work a little longer hours and those sort of things. But, you know, in this sort of dynamic, in this sort of environment, if you want to eat, then that's what you've got to do. And to answer your question more specifically, with our room in the city, we've adapted. You know, we've changed to half-hour auction times. So to give everybody 30 minutes per auction, which means that the agent can pretty much come in, do the auction, and all but be out of the room by the time the next agent's rolled through. So really, I've only got myself and one or possibly two agents in a room that's 120 square meters.
It's live streaming. You obviously got registrations occurring all the time.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, the biggest thing about these new processes is that to ensure that they are compliant, you need to ensure that you've got all those back end hitches in place for us to ensure that those purchases are legitimate, and that the buyer and that the agents have actually qualified that purchaser. And that all of these systems that I talk about have got that element of, you know, by all means they can pre-register and get themselves set up, but until the agent takes them over to the other side of the system and allows them to play, they really can't do anything else. And I think that's the most important part, so that you don't have Joe Blow. And a safety environment, you know, thing for the purchaser is to know that that's happening as well, that no one gets registered unless the agent says so. This isn't just eBay where you can just jump on and bid at an auction. We've done a lot more work behind it than that.
What about the bidding process? Oh, you said it was more uncomfortable. You got an auction, you got it running. Obviously, in a face-to-face auction or a room auction, you can actually see everyone. You can actually touch them, feel them, pressurize them, whatever you want to say. How do you find it works when you've got no one in the room? How do you keep that bidding process going and the energy up?
If you asked me this question a month ago, I'd have given you a very different answer. I've grown to actually not mind it. I've been on stage for quite a number of years, and I think that now it's just an ability to adapt to a different style of presentation. You've got to be a little bit more relaxed. You can't be up because, you know, if your auctions are going to take, 2, 3, 4 times as long, nobody can rant and holler for that long. So you've got to be a little bit more cool, calm, collected. We're adapting the way that we're sort of calling things up. So first, second, third, all those sorts of things, delaying to allow more time and all that sort of stuff.
So you're saying ranting for 45 minutes is difficult? You obviously
No, God, not for me. It's not, but for some it is.
You obviously didn't marry my wife.
Yeah, I'll stay out of that.
Jesse, I've got a question. So do you think over time that there will be specialist virtual auctioneers, so to speak, and then specialist live auctioneers? Is it that much of a different skill set, or can you make the change easily?
No, short answer to that would be no. I don't think there'll be specialists. I just think better auctioneers will have the ability to adapt. I mean, I already believe, and I don't want to piddle in my pocket, but I already believe that I've pretty much got this down pat now. I understand the timing of it. I understand how to push the pace. I understand how to prep my agents to be ready to assist me on the day. This isn't so much about let's just hit and hope, call this auction on Saturday and Jesse will get it done. This is about really, managing and almost setting your course before you take it.
On the online ones, does it mean that there's got to be a closer relationship between agent and auctioneer?
Yeah, absolutely, Bailey. Yeah, definitely.
Closer than a regular auction, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm talking to my agents more now than ever, and it's absolutely fine. It is what it is. We've got to be there for them at this time to ensure that they feel comfortable. This is new to a lot of these agents as well. We've been doing online auctions as auctioneers for a long time. I still remember my mentor saying to me once that, Jesse, you've got to understand that a lot of people that have been to an auction, half your crowd may have never, ever been to an auction before. Half of them have, but half of them haven't.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with these agents. Half of these guys have actually tried this and half of them haven't. And for them, you've got to sort of hold their hand a little bit more, talk to them and make them feel comfortable, I think, in the process.
And do you think, Jesse, over time that because of COVID and the need to go virtual, do you think that will spread the acceptability of auctions generally across the country? Because, you know, there's definitely pockets that don't do auctions, you agree? And there are pockets of the state and the city that do. Do you think now that everyone's had to be forced to consider it, that it'll actually be better accepted, including non-live auctions?
Yeah, well, I think what people are realising now is that auction is putting an end date to a campaign, which everybody knew that, but people are starting to get their heads around the data. And COVID is COVID. I understand everything's a bit more difficult now, but I got some data from Domain prior to, I don't know, maybe February. You know, the average days on market across Australia is something like 93 days on market, right? The average when you put across the whole country.
Yeah.
The average auction campaign is 42 days.
Right.
So I mean, it's cutting it in half. You bring that data and you really start to bring it down to Sydney. That data, you know, gets so much tighter. You know, it goes from about 50 days or 48 days private treaty into a 28-day average or 29 or 31. So, you know, for these agents, they're realizing that with no urgency, they've got to create it somehow. Yeah. So I think you're right. We will see more of it, but I think we'll also see potentially a little bit more of some of these offline and off market and sort of private quiet sales. I think we might see them go to a little bit more timed auctions or virtual auctions or something like that. You know,
now you call that, Jesse, you call that a timed auction, but yet we all know that that's really technically a private treaty transaction, isn't it?
No, it's still, look, the timed auctions still hold a 66W. So it's still an unconditional contract. The difference is you're given the ability to bid over days, not minutes. That's probably the best way to explain it. And at the pointy end of the auction, of course, you're given the ability to sort of push out. So if you bid in the last 5 minutes, it'll push out another 5 minutes, just like in the auction where you would give people more time.
Would you agree that if you want to be a good agent who conducts auctions, you've got to learn what auctions are about and do an auction course just like an auctioneer?
I think you've got to understand what sort of things the auctioneer is going through. I mean, I can guarantee you I understand what sort of thing the agents are going through. So I think it's, you know, the more understanding that you and your counterparts can have of each other's role in a job, you know, by all means, I'm all for sort of delegating roles, but most importantly, I never delegate a role unless I understand what I'm delegating. And I think if that makes any sense to you, that's how I've tried to run my business and my personal relationships with my agents as well.
So knocking down, obviously the key part of any auction is the bringing down of the hammer and knocking him down. Some of the platforms we've noticed have a time delay. Because obviously when a hammer comes down, that's when the property auction's over based on most cases.
Yep.
So how do you protect your vendor? And more importantly, how do you protect yourself and the agent against people saying, oh, I had another bid to give?
Yeah, good question. I think it's the experience of the way that you call your auction. I mean, never, ever, ever would I sell a property pretty much ever in any circumstance without making it incredibly clear that property is going to be sold. That's the first thing. So to answer your question, that's what I would say to start, so that all purchasers are made that clear. And it would be something, I'll give you an example. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been instructed from my agents that we are to sell this property at $2,420,000. If there are no further offers, the property sells today. I'm going to give you a moment to make a final decision. And buyers, I call it up 3 times and the property sells here today. I would let it sit. I would give them a moment, and then I would call it up first, ladies and gentlemen, at $2,420,000. So you talk about a 2-second delay. My first call goes for 3 seconds. Second, at $2,420,000, third time before I sell it at $2,420,000, and then I wouldn't even sell it at that level. I would at least give that my first solitary good quality bluff. This is just me. Not all auctioneers are like this. Bluff. And then I would do it all over again to make sure that by the end of it, I've done everything in my power in this system and in this process to get as much money as I can.
Yeah. People go to and sell the house to get the best possible price. I know it's difficult in terms of the times we're having trouble getting people to get finance. We also have unemployment out there. But not respect, Do you believe that the online auction will still fetch the best price for the property?
Yes, I do. You know, if the agent's done their job, yes, I think it can still achieve the best price for a property in this market. But I mean, it's to a certain degree, it's a bit of an interesting comment. The best price for a property is what the best price will pay in that market. That's what I believe. And a lot of these people that are selling now are needing to sell. They're needing to upsize. They're needing to downsize. They're a deceased estate, a mortgagee in possession, or, you know, quite frankly, they've just got a reason. They're divorcing, something like that. And they're sick of the kids. I don't know. You know, all these different reasons that people have to sell homes. And this process is still allowing them to get the most amount of money in a competitive environment. You know, and it's making people, you know, stand up and make a bid or miss out. That's the biggest thing about it.
And that's the key point, that we don't have to stop for COVID. We actually can continue to do our job because we have the resources to do it. Last question, Jesse. This is a time for opportunity, not for crisis. And we've all learned a lot of lessons here from the COVID time. We must be doing things so differently, it's not funny. But tell me, what do you think is going to remain after COVID is over and we can go back to normal?
Of this process? Yeah.
Of this process, yeah, I definitely think it'd have to be the online bidding section. I don't think it's going to happen for a lot of it. I still think there's an element of purchasers that want to be there, feel it, smell it, hear it, enjoy the atmosphere that they're in. You know, no one enjoys it, but certainly, you know, there's that element of when you're going to buy something, you want to, you know, you don't feel like you've been ripped off if you didn't see anyone rip you off, kind of thing. And I think that's an idea of people wanting to be there. I think particularly for the aged population, I almost think it should be encouraged that they learn these new systems and that they can bid comfortably from the comfort of their home now, without having to risk themselves, particularly until we can guarantee their safety. And, you know, the last thing we need for our industry is somebody to turn up at an auction or an auctioneer to get sick, or an agent and infect a bunch of people. That would be bad for the whole industry. No one wants to see that at all. So, you know, whatever we can do to protect the people, I think the better it is. So I think the online bidding part will stay for the foreseeable future. I hope more than anything I've got heads to talk to, you know, in the next couple of months at least, maybe 3 months. I try to be an optimist, but that's what I think will remain, Bailey, personally.
So we're looking more at hybrid auctions than we have ever before, where you have people who can turn up to the auction where the energy is available, but at the same time, those who can't get there because of infirmity or some other reason, they can continue to participate as if they were there. Jess, look, thank you for your time. Your insight's been great. And
pleasure.
Thank you for coming to Leverage.
Thanks so much.
Lovely to talk, gentlemen. Thank you.
Take care.